Hello, my sexy biz babes. So today is going to be a little bit different episode, but we're still going to get down into how you can improve your sex life, your safety, digestion, all of these things by healing your pelvic floor. So you gotta listen because this could change your life. So I have Caytlyn Dee on, and she is a pelvic health specialist, and we're gonna get into it. So first of all, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me, Tia. As she mentioned, I am a pelvic health specialist. I predominantly work with women online, and really, there's a lot of education around the whole body and really focusing on our center and foundation, which is our pelvis.
Mm-hmm. And how did you get into pelvic health specialist, and what is that?
Great question. So I sought out a pelvic health specialist of my own to receive the work a few years ago now. I had really tapped into looking at the trauma in my past. Our dad was physically and emotionally abusive. I repeated that pattern with a fiance at one point in my life. And it all I kind of woke up around all of it after my youngest sister, we lost her to suicide. So I kind of got to my wit's end with menstrual pain, poor digestion, and numbness, or just not feeling like I thought it should during sex. So I started working with a practitioner and receiving the work, and not too long after that, I was like, all women need to know about this. Like, I thought I was broken. I thought it was all me and I was messed up. And just knowing, I always use the analogy, we get a handbook or a manual for cell phones and cars and and all that stuff. But the female body is this fucking mystery still.
Yeah, nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about the things that we go through after trauma, or from disassociating, or all of the shame, just so many different things. So what kind of got you to the idea of even working on your pelvic floor? Did you hear it from somebody, or?
I think the first time that I had any idea that this was even a thing, my rolfer actually had mentioned that she had seen someone and they had done intravaginal work. And so I was like, that sounded interesting. But as you just mentioned, shame around the space in my body, I was not talking to anybody about this. I didn't even share that I had menstrual cramps. I sure wasn't talking about digestive issues or IBS or anything like that. This was my secret. Mm-hmm. And so I got connected with this woman, Alicia Patterson, somehow randomly on Facebook, and started kind of following her and watching her videos. And it was a huge deal for me to reach out to somebody and own that I was going to actually try this.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So she put what she was helping with, you found her. This is the magic of marketing, PS. And that's how you worked with her. So amazing. So what were some of the big changes for you? So where were you before? What was, dive into that a little bit. And I'd love to hear kind of what happened afterwards.
Yeah. At the beginning, like I said, I had a lot of shame around my pelvis, just this whole area. And I think that because it tends to be so sexualized in our culture, that anything else like our digestive health, even it's a muscle, right? Like the pelvic diaphragm or floor, which is one of 4 of the diaphragms in our body, which is why I refer to it that way, is a huge muscle group, right? And it's our center, and all of these things stack on top of it. But I just never really thought of that before. I had really, really painful menstruation, my whole life. I had severe back pain. Like I said, a big driver for me was that sex didn't feel good, or I would kind of dissociate, numb out. And I thought that I was like, for a long time, I had thought that it was me, and then it was like I was just broken.
Wrong.
But then as I had received other body work and experienced such profound healing in other areas of my life, this was kind of like my last resort. Like, okay, if this doesn't work, then there's something really wrong with me.
Okay. So what were some of the things that you dove into? Is this like yonis or wands or things like that? Or what do you do?
Yeah. So when I worked with a practitioner, she was in Colorado, so she was local. So I was receiving pelvic floor massage, which is internal intravaginal massage work. It's really working with you have direct contact. We're really lucky as women because we have access to these muscles, nerves, fascia that all is contained in our pelvic bowl.
Mm-hmm.
As far as tools that I have used, I had tried yoni eggs before and something just didn't really feel right with them. So I actually really love wands, like crystal, high end, real crystal.
Spend the money, get the good quality.
Wands. Yes, you don't want glue. You don't want like if they're $20. No.
Putting in your body. In fact, I could even show it. It's like right here.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, I did not bring mine down here.
See, this is a high quality yoni wand.
Yes.
This is legit, and it was like $80.
Yes. $80 is about the price point. Awesome. And I love that one I have an obsidian one. And I love that it has, when you're starting out, the bigger end, even though it can be like a little bit, when we start to approach this area with a non-sexual healing intention, it can be a little bit like, is this like a dildo pleasure, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But that bigger end can really help it's like stretching these muscles, like bringing softness and suppleness, which allows for blood flow. And, if you have like numbness or pain and there's nerves get to be like frozen, basically, that's a freeze response, right, in our nervous system. So for me, having just either holding a wand or having a practitioner or using my own hand to just hold a space that felt like it was frozen, which can be really strange to like know there's something there, but not being able to really feel it.
Tough.
Or tough or like ropey. And it can even go to like a zingy kind of nervy sensation, and like, just being able to sit with that and breathe. And there's not a lot of like movement that has to go into it, can really start to, our bodies want to heal, right? They orient towards health, nerves come back online. So as you kind of go from that numb, dissociated, frozen tissue and come back online to that like expansive vitality, pleasure, there can be that in between where there can be some discomfort, if there hasn't been sensation in an area or a nerve is like, ooh, I'm awake now. It can have like a zingy type feeling. So I always preface with that, because it's like not all just like numb to pleasure. It can be a spectrum.
Yeah. So ladies, so go ahead and look up a yoni wand if you're listening to the podcast. Here's the yoni wand. It's made out of crystal, high quality crystal. This one's rose quartz. Obsidian is a little bit more towards, isn't it like healing and cleansing? And then I think so.
I think so. And I can share, I can't remember off the top of my head. I always get it wrong, so I won't say it right now. And I can share with Tia the wand that I usually recommend too.
Yeah, that would be great. And so the one I got was for like heart healing and heart and love. And so that was for like giving my pussy love, giving my pussy healing. And to be honest, I actually didn't feel like I had a numb pussy. I didn't feel like I needed to really work on it. I have been into yoni eggs, Benoit balls for a really long time. And I never really thought I needed the wand, but I tried the wand and did this exercise, and we can go into this a little bit, where you just hold it in a place and then you go clockwise or counterclockwise through all these different areas and you just hold it. And that's where she's talking about like these different feelings and these different parts of our body that maybe don't even ever get touched. Like,
Mm.
because if you think of sex, it's like going in and out, going in and out a lot of the times, where there's all these other areas. Um, what what are some benefits to using the wand and like trying and touching all these different areas?
Yeah, I think that um, first of all, with the access that you can get to, especially with the rose quartz, and you mentioned the love piece of that. There's a direct connection between your cervix and your heart. Literally, the vagus nerve runs from your brainstem through your throat, heart, digestive organs to the cervix.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge piece. And for me, I had some medical trauma through a colposcopy when I was 15 or 16 years old. And so my cervix was very much like numb and offline. And, with a wand, you can have access. It's easier to access than with your hand, to get really further back to the cervix, which is an organ and can be orgasmic. And up until a few years ago, the medical system didn't even recognize that it contained nerves. They said it
Okay.
was just a dead, which if you've had an IUD or a medical procedure, you know that there are nerves there.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
cervical orgasms are also amazing. So,
Yeah.
kind of using this wand to reach back there. And what would you say, like, just kind of like touch it lightly, just go to your comfort to push the boundaries? What?
Yeah, I think that it's really important, especially if you're just starting to explore this and you have had any type of trauma, which can be sexual, it can be an injury, it could be medical, it can be, even consensual sex that didn't like quite
Feel good?
feel like you were open and ready. Like that can be a memory that your tissues and your nerves hold on to, right?
Ooh.
And if you're not aroused, it's like one of my teachers describes it as like pounding a limp penis. Like that is not going to feel good. And that's the same as a cervix or vagina that is not like fully awake and aroused.
Or dissociating, maybe a little
Yeah,
bit like, okay, I'm just
exactly.
doing this, like get it over with. And then you
Yeah.
wonder why you don't have feeling in your yoni after you do this.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that, listening to your body is so imperative, and it may be weeks or days or a year before you're like touching the cervix, and there's no pressure. I think that it's such, and this is why a big part of the reason why I work with women the way I do now is to really give them the time and the space that they need to work with their own body. I believe that, and then we went through COVID, right? So it's like so essential that it doesn't just all this healing work doesn't come to a stop because we can't go see a practitioner in person. And I think that if you have been through something that was traumatic and you're like, no way in hell is anybody else going to touch the space in my body, to be able to do that and have a safe space at your home, where you can really start to like breathe and drop in and feel some of that release and expansion start to happen is just really special.
Yeah, or be guided. So one of my friends, and she's a sex coach, she guided us on a call, and like she didn't hear us, but like she was
Mm-hmm.
like sharing what to do and how to do it instead of just reading a paper. And that's also like the online space, you can do that, and it is very helpful and transformative. And then I'm just going to be a little bit vulnerable here, and you can like give me tips. So, oh gosh, it's very fresh. but I feel like I can talk about it. So recently, I don't even know. Recently, I actually said no to somebody for sex and I got, I don't know, physical abuse. And so,
Mm.
okay, so recently I turned down someone for sex and they got physically abusive. So, is there like healing work to do with that? Do you have any recommendations?
Mm. I hear you. My heart goes out to you. Um, Definitely. And, when I was with an abusive fiance, he was sexually and physically abusive.
Oof.
And um, I think that it can be hard, and it was for me to even admit that it was rape or assault because I was with the person, right? So it's
Yeah,
like
that's such a
important to realize that I think in your post that you shared the other day, you shared along the lines of like, you never owe someone sex, or you never have, like, it's never
whether
like
your
the deal.
boyfriend,
It
husband,
doesn't matter.
they took you out on a really expensive date or a trip and you
Yeah.
change your mind.
Yeah. Like never ever. And so I think that so many women, I know the more that I speak about this and hear of stories, that women have gone through this, and then they get, wonder why their bodies kind of shut down when it comes to sex, whether it's with someone they know or have an experience like that. And then down the road, it's like their body goes into that response again. Um,
Mm,
so I think that being able to, first of all, it's not your fault. And if you have a space to be able to share about it, it's really important, because shame is so linked to
mm-hmm.
this space in our body already. But, when you hear about, my little sister was assaulted multiple times, and suicide is really common in rape victims.
Yeah.
And, Brene Brown, I've heard talk about, it's not the event that causes that, it's the shame that
Yeah.
follows it, because we feel so alone. Um, so I know it's big and it's heavy, and it's like you don't want to relive it, but being able to talk about it and just know that it's not your fault, first of all. And then, this is why I offer the programs and work that I do, that you can be in your house by yourself with your own body. And it doesn't have to be internal work to start to like wake this space up, or, you could be just putting your hands over your womb or lower belly and breathing into them. And that alone can like bring the nervous system back to regulated, and just safety. It's all about safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once we feel safe, we can like take on the world. And that was a huge part for me with this work, is that from my ex, and then from being physically abused by my dad since I was a young girl, I had been in this like locked up survival mode, like go, go, go all the time, like badass business babe, and numbed out basically.
Yeah. It's a lot of women.
And so, yeah. And so I think that, this work really helped me to unwind some of that. Like, this is our root. So when we're like, it doesn't have to be sexual abuse or trauma that gets us into that like taut, tight, like mode,
Yeah.
right?
I
Have you
even
ever
felt
felt like
that
you're like
afterwards. Like,
driving, or like in injury in sports or something can
yeah,
get you into this like
defense. So after this happened, and I don't want to like devalue or lower it, like I wasn't hurt. Um, I I was just in defense, and then luckily like things stopped and they didn't keep escalating.
Mhm.
Um, because I like screamed, and so people woke up, and so it like stopped and de-escalated. So I'm really lucky, and I don't want to like devalue anybody's experience or anything. And I also, in my mind, I'm like, oh, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. And it wasn't, you know, but it still happened, and there's still a little bit of trauma. And afterwards I did feel like, like there's this instant, like, I wanna, like, disassociate or, like, not be too sexy. It was like an instant thing, and I'm sexy biz babe. And, like, I went to my dance class, and it's literally like an exotic flow, pole dance class, and, like, my first instinct, I felt really, like, a little triggered, like, "Uh," and then I was really just getting back into my body, like, it's only women in this place, it's dark lights, and just really connecting back to my body and feeling safe in my body, and I was literally, like, going through that in my mind through the class, and so and I really didn't wanna go last night. I didn't want to. It was just there was a lot of, "Ugh," and I did, and it made me feel better, and also sharing my story. It's in a private group, ladies, so I didn't share it publicly, but I shared it in my private group, and that even just opened up a little bit of healing, and I did it in an empowering way, not like a, "Oh, I'm a victim." And that also healed. So sharing even just with a friend, something that you went through, even if it's 10 years ago, you never know. Like sharing it and talking about it and them being like holding space for you and being like, that wasn't okay, which is okay.
Yeah, I think that that is, and no comparison, like all stories, if it made you feel unsafe in some way, you don't have to prove it. Like that is valid, that whatever it was, if it made you feel unsafe, like it wasn't okay.
Mhm.
And, I speak to women who are much older than me who hear me talk and are like, this happened to me when I was, 30 years ago. And then they've been holding on to like all this stuff and they carry extra weight, or they have major digestive issues, or they've had hysterectomies, like all these things that just kind of are written off, I feel like so often by
Mhm.
the medical community as like, this is part of getting older as a woman. Like you're
Yeah.
just going to be, oh, and then you have kids, like you're ruined.
Ah,
And
yeah,
there's no
no.
resources.
Yeah. And that's not the truth.
Yeah, like pain and discomfort and not feeling safe or not feeling like, again, I think that confidence is really related to, I shared a post about this recently, is really related to safety. Like how you just mentioned about going to a dance class, like that. I've shared photos of myself now and from like a boudoir shoot or something like that, where like I don't share those because my body has changed or like I feel, need any validation through them. It's that I feel like I'm safe to do so. Whereas before it was like, what are people going to say? Like my, some guy is going to be like not okay with it or slut shame me or whatever. And it's really like being able to speak in front of, like, be on a podcast. Like this would never happen before I did this work. And it was just
Yeah.
because I was hiding. And I
Mhm.
really felt like if you don't know your own body and don't understand and have this like insecurity and just confusion around the vessel that you're walking this earth in for your whole life, then it can be really like that affects every level of your life, from your
Yeah.
business to your career to your relationships and your wealth. Like it's all connected.
Yeah. And I just never devalue what you went through, because no matter what it is, it's still you. You can still take your power back. You can still heal from it. And it's still an experience because there is always worse. There's always worse. There's so many bad ones. And I remember the first time I went through something which was worse than what I went through now. I was like, oh, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. Like, it's no big deal. And I just kept pushing it to the side, pushing it to the side. And I never really healed on it till like 6 years later. And it was like, whoa, like I was holding on to this. So holding space for that and holding space for you to bring up either past things or whatever it is, it's still
Mhm.
not okay. And it will open you up to feel more confident, like you said, feel less shame, feel more vibrant. Like even just sharing in my group and then with people and them holding space for me, it helps me not feel alone and talk about it and heal quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's real power in, you know, our voice. Our throat is also very connected to our pelvis. Like if you look at a picture of the pelvic floor and the throat, they're like so similar. And there's literally a fascial connection, a line that runs between the two. So even my voice has shifted through the work. Now, you know, when I have hands-on work or do it myself, I describe it as like an echo in my throat of what's happening in my pelvis. You know, relaxing and noticing tension in your jaw if you are like getting ready for sex or feel like you're kind of stressed out, like just that, like can really help relax these muscles as well. And like I mentioned at the beginning, it is a diaphragm. We have 4 diaphragms. We mostly just think of the thoracic one in our chest, right? But our cranial, throat, and pelvis are also expanding and contracting when we breathe. So
Ah,
it's all so connected.
awesome. And how is digestion connected?
Yeah, great question. So, you know, I know if you're just listening, you won't be able to see this, but if you picture your pelvic floor or pelvic diaphragm at the root of your body, up right on top of that sits in the front would be your bladder, then your like closest to your pubic bone, then your womb or uterus if you have one, and then behind that is your rectum and lower digestive organs. So if there is, and there's a ton of blood vessels and nerves in the pelvic bowl, like this region that is kind of protected by the bones. So if there is constriction in blood flow, if there are danger signals being sent through those nerves, then your digestive system is going to be affected. And, you know, for me anyways, I would do things like go get acupuncture or like change my diet and things would get back on track with my digestion.
Okay.
But then they would go back and they would revert and I would like eat something or I would need to go get acupuncture again. With this, however, I haven't seen an acupuncturist in a long time. I think it's a great practice, but I just haven't because of COVID. And I hear from a lot of women who struggle with their digestion, be it like chronic constipation or on the other side is like IBS. And they change all kinds of things. But then, you know, if there's, like I said, if there's constriction happening in those muscles that support that area, like that blood flow is going to be constricted, going to, like if you have a pipe that's kinked somewhere, it's going to affect the rest of the system, right?
Yeah,
So
which could be from like trauma and abuse or like being afraid or maybe not connecting, disassociating, all those things could lead to that.
yeah, or, you know, even being highly stressed, which who isn't in this
Yeah.
society, right? Like sitting in
Yeah.
traffic a lot or being bullied at school and getting into this like heightened mode for a long time affects these muscles. And or giving birth, even if it was just a normal vaginal birth, like our postpartum care in the States tends to suck.
Yeah.
So,
It's not even
you know,
talked about.
it's not even talked about. And I have not had children, but I know from seeing people and talking with practitioners who've worked with hundreds of women, you know, your muscles come back, like our body, like I said before, orients towards healing. So if we nourish these spaces and our nerves and, from the bottom up, it really promotes this like vibrant health and healing for the rest of the body.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like everything is just settling back to our root, right?
Yeah. So what are some signs that you do have good health in pelvic floor? And then what are some signs that you don't?
Yeah. I think, if you have like, we haven't even really touched on like any type of prolapse or like constant UTIs or other urinary stuff, pain or numbness during sex, which I want to also speak to that a little bit, is just like the communication and like understanding our own body and how we aren't necessarily the girls that we see on TV or the videos that are like ready like that.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece. Digestive issues. I think that cognitive function and our voice can be affected as well from traumatic experiences in our pelvis because of the nerve connection. Menstrual pain, fertility issues, hormonal imbalances. Like if you have these things coming up and you haven't explored your pelvic region, it could be worth doing. Otherwise, I just feel like I describe it as like a whack-a-mole of symptoms. And trust me, I've been there. So there's no shame if you feel like you're there. And this was really like what made me believe in it so much, is how everything kind of fell into line once I like included this part in my body with everything else.
I love that. And then what's some good ones? Like, would it be like, what's a good pelvic floor? So they have healthy digestion, they have healthy poops, they like
healthy, regular digestion. Yeah, exactly. Those are awesome. Regular menstrual cycles that like aren't like pain during menstruation is not part of being a woman. It is something is on, like pain is not normal. Pain is our body communicating with us. So a healthy, regular, pain-free or manageable, the more I rest when I bleed, the less cramps I tend to have, which is incredible, right? That confidence, safety, like tapped in inner power, empowered feeling it's kind of intangible, but it's just like, I'm like good, rooted, we talk about the root chakra, if you are into the chakras. And I think that just like feeling connected and like you're good. And then everything outside of you is like, okay, I got this. And, resiliency, really, like you're not going to take stress out of our lives. Like that's unrealistic. And I don't really talk about like de-stress, go to the spa, and then you're going to be like healed. It's how can you deal with all the stuff and take care of yourself, and really respond rather than react.
Yes. And ladies, I am here to tell you, I've had a lot of the symptoms way earlier on, and I had bad periods, I had bad acne, all these things. Like I would have been on like 6 really strong prescriptions if I didn't just go find reasons why I was having them and then find a natural way to heal them. I'm on 0 medications. I rarely take ibuprofen, once in a while, but these things, they're there to find what the problem is. Like there's a solution that's natural, usually, not always. I'm not going to say always for sure. Like if you have a broken arm, go get it fixed. If you have cancer, like whatever, like you got to listen to doctors at some point, but there's ways, there's something that's speaking to you that maybe you should go look into. I've had back pain, ADHD, bad periods, migraines, all these things. I found out what was the source. I had migraines every single month, 3 times a month, debilitating, Like, but then I did acupuncture, I did healing, I did stress, I did food. All these things play a part of your health. And then same with your womb. So if there's issues, like start exploring these modalities and these healing practices, and it just starts helping you throughout everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's really starting to a big part of how I work with women is relearning, remembering how to trust our body. Like everything in society, in most of the medical system, there's billions of dollars pumped into that to make us not trust our body, or to give us doubt, or to tell somebody something and they don't listen or don't believe us. And that's so disempowering and makes us doubt ourselves, right? So as we start to listen more and more, and our body, it's a reciprocal relationship. Like once our body knows that we're listening, and that's our nervous system, like we're not overriding our needs, even things like using the restroom when we feel the urge. Like how many times have you been there typing an email or a post or something or a text, and you're like, I just got to get through this and then I'm going to go. And like even little things like that is overriding our nervous system. So if we can do little things, like that's
going to the bathroom when you need to go to the bathroom is self-love. I literally saw that as a quote. And then I was like, I do that all the time. I'm like, it's literally like a minute, like before this, I'm like, can I use the restroom real quick? Like using the restroom when you have to go is self-love. And I've been doing that more and more. And it's like, good. It's like helpful.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, and that's another thing, is that it's like little things. Like I realize I'm recently retired from being an executive assistant to a CEO in a corporate company. Like I understand that there are things at work or with kids or, whatever, that it's like, I can't always just be like, drop everything and, do what I need to do. But when you start to listen to your nervous system with little things, and take a breath even in between your posts or your emails or in a traffic jam, like that helps regulate your nervous system. And as it remembers that, it will start to orient towards that more. So it doesn't take like a ton of time, or like an hour a day meditation practice or yoga practice or anything like that, to start to really nourish your nerves back to this feeling of safety, which in turn helps orient your body towards health.
Yes. And ladies, just like we talked about in the beginning, I could not have ended this podcast without sharing listening to your yoni before you have sex. Like, is it ready? Are you excited? Are you wet? Are you swollen? Like, are you excited for this? Are you ready? Like, that's one reason why I'm Sexy Biz Babe, is because I always listen to my yoni. And then like, you don't have to like say, I'm not ready. In fact, I wouldn't really recommend that, but like letting the foreplay go on, or like listening to it, or you helping warm yourself up, because that will make sex better for you, number one, and for your man or partner or whoever. Like, it will make it better if you wait, and that you wait till it gets juicier. They will enjoy it more. You will enjoy it more. It's a win-win for everybody. So listen to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I also recognize like that was so challenging for me, especially having a partner when I started doing this work and understanding my own body, and then having to advocate for myself and communicate and like navigate that, it's not something, of course this is boundaries and like all this stuff, but it's not something that he was doing wrong or even knew the difference of, because I didn't. Like for me, it was like I was learning about my own body. So how can I expect, our bodies are our responsibility, and how can I expect somebody else to know and navigate what I need if I don't even know?
Yeah. And it could shift things, because like you said, it's different. May shake things up. They may not know how to react. It's okay. It's okay. Things could shift, and it just takes time to navigate it. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay if they're maybe like, what? Or like, you'll learn, you'll grow, just start little by little. It'll get better, and you'll notice your sex life can also improve so much when you honor this. Like, there's just so many reasons.
Yeah, totally. I was trying to look up, okay. There's a book called Women's Anatomy of Arousal, Secret Maps to Buried Pleasure by Sherry Winston. And it's fantastic. It has actually pieces in it for guys or people without yonis to have like a quick read. But there's self practices, there's practices you can do with a partner, which I think are great to do with yourself first so that you can walk a partner through. But yeah, really starting to listen, like every part, you know, we hear so much in the health coaching or health world about like all these different parts, but then nobody brings the pelvis into the conversation. So if there's this like unsafety or, you know, danger loop coming in because we're doing all the other things, but then having uncomfortable sex or like don't feel safe or good about all parts of our body, it just like perpetuates this cycle.
Yeah. So ladies, if you need help, she is amazing with the pelvic floor. So if you got like trauma, if you're dissociating or all these things, and then me, it's all about that confidence, breaking out of that shame. I'm more of a different level of that confidence, how to communicate about sex,
Yeah.
how to start getting your arousal back. So yeah, definitely reach out to her. So what's your Instagram? And the links will be in the bio as well, but just so they can go find you.
So my Instagram is freespirit.living. Freespiritliving.com will take you to my Facebook group, which is a great way to see lots of free content, videos, connect with me. And then email is c@freespiritliving.com.
Awesome. So go reach out to her if you are ready to heal that pelvic floor and you are like, ooh, like I want this. I want all that she has. She can hold space for you and help you and grow. So thank you so much. Was there anything else you wanted to add before we close up?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity just to talk and share about this work. And I'm always excited and honored to hear other women and support them through this journey.
Yes, thank you so much.